Here we are again, Between Sundays, the podcast where we have conversations that we hope you are going out and continuing to have. My name is Theo. I've got with me my lovely co-host, Maxine.
Hey, everybody.
And we're here to just start a really interesting conversation that I know I've said this before, but I believe this conversation will definitely be around till the end of time.
It's been around since the beginning of time.
We're going to talk about gender roles. Yeah. So let's talk about it.
Living between Sundays.
All right, so as we have this conversation on gender roles, we are in season 2. And for those of you that haven't been catching up with us or keeping up with us, first of all, let me just say, you got to go back and go to season 1 even. Start season 1 and get up to where we are now. But in season 2, we're doing things a little bit differently. And
yeah, so we are starting off with something called Am I Wrong Though? And this is a scenario that Tony is going to be reading to us. And we're going to get our real-time reactions on it. It's going to actually help guide the conversation today because we're going to start with it and then kind of parse it out throughout. But I need to, before we even go there, you guys who are not here with us can't see that we are so fancy right now. We're like, we have leveled up because our producer, Tony, has put a TV here in front of us that he can like communicate and look stuff up and put the Am I Wrong Though prompt so we can go back and look at it. And I just feel like we are very official right now. Like
Tony's the man.
I think we've like made it or something.
We're kind of cool.
I think we're cool.
We're kind of
Although
cool.
I think saying we're cool maybe makes us uncool.
That's true.
Yeah.
That is true.
Yeah.
We just turned into those like old parents who are trying to be cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yep. Okay.
It was cool for a minute.
So we're going to kick us off with Am I Wrong Though? And Tony, give us your voice.
Okay. Well, here's my voice. All right. And we will start off on the Am I Wrong Though segment. So, am I wrong though for pushing back on my husband after he started echoing his dad's views on a woman's role? This feels dumb writing out, but it doesn't feel dumb living it. My father-in-law is very traditional. Men lead, women support. Says it like it's just obvious. Fine. That's his marriage, whatever. But lately, my husband has started sounding like him. We used to split things. Not perfectly, but it felt like a team. Now it's little comments. I think the home works better when one person leads. I can provide, you don't have to work so hard. And then you could focus more on the house. The house? I work full time. I also run our lives, but somehow I'm the one not leaning into my role. His words. The other night, his dad was over and said, when we have kids, I'll need to be home. I laughed. He didn't. And my husband just sat there, nodded. That part, that got me. I said, that's not a decision you get to make for me. His dad doubled down. I pushed back harder than I probably should have. Later, my husband told me I embarrassed him, that I was disrespectful. Disrespectful? I asked him if he actually expects me to stop working one day. He said, I think it would be better for our family. That hurt. I told him I feel like I'm being pushed into a role I never agreed to, like I'm slowly disappearing in my own marriage. He says I'm being defensive. That he's just sharing a vision, but it doesn't feel like his vision. I snapped and said if he wants his dad's version of a wife, he married the wrong person. Now everything's tense. His mom even texted me to try to understand, and I'm sitting here wondering if I went too far, or if I'm the only one actually saying the quiet part out loud. Am I wrong, though?
Sheesh. Oh, man. This is going to be a good one. I'm so excited. First of all, I want to commend you, whoever you are, for writing in. Thank you. This sets up our conversation perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
Man, okay, so we're gonna get to this. I gotta start from the beginning, right? That way everybody knows where we're both coming from.
Yeah.
Okay, so me personally, I grew up in a household where my mother was stay-at-home mom. Mm-hmm. Dad worked crazy hours. I mean, I think I've said on a previous podcast, he worked all the shifts at one point in his life. There was one season where he was doing 7 to 3. There was another season where he was doing 3 to 11. There was another season where he was doing 11 to 7. Like he'd done it all. And we were what I guess today they would call it. My mom was what they would call a trad wife, traditional wife, is
Ooh, baking bread.
fancy, yeah. So I mean, she did all the cooking, she did all the cleaning, she homeschooled us,
Yeah.
right? Like she did it all, and I grew up with that, and I saw the benefits of it. So mom did that for about the first 10 years. Then she got like a part-time job, and then she slowly started working full-time as we were all growing up and whatnot. And I saw the benefits of it, right? I also saw the season of life where that changed, where mom was working and dad was doing more around the house and all that. And I have friends and family to where both parents work and they split everything right down the middle. Dad does just as much at home and with the kids as mom does. So I'm coming from what I think is a balanced perspective. But I'm interested to know, how did you grow up? What did you see?
Yeah, I don't think I really saw stay-at-homeness happening. My mom was a single mom. She worked, always was working, and school, sometimes both. I spent a lot of time, with my grandparents or daycare or somebody taking care of me or whatever the case may be. So she was definitely out and about, trying to make a living. I think personally, I've gone back and forth with this. Because I'm a mom now, right? And I have two little ones, under 4 years old. And I got to stay at home for 9 months with my first child. And with the second, I was already back at work. So I only got to stay home for a few months.
Okay.
So very different kind of looking at how my life is. I will say that I think that this is fully like a family's choice together, right? And like what they can make work, what makes sense. I don't actually think that one way is better than the other. And the reason I'm going to say this, and we'll get into a little bit more deeper, but like for me, in the season that I stayed home with my first child, I needed that. My hormones were absolutely crazy. I don't think that I could have physically actually given my child somewhere else. Like it wasn't going to work.
Yeah.
I needed that time with her. But at the same time, I've always been someone who loves to like do and work and all this stuff. And so it got to a point where I was feeling like cagey, right? I can't imagine now not working, right? Because I love my children, but I also love work and I love to do both. And I do feel like I'm called to both places. And so we just need to make it work, right? Being a mom is still something that you guys know here how much like I'm very intense with it. I'm very much priority, but also like, I think it's okay for her to see me doing what God is calling me to do, right? As long as I'm not like, minimizing my role in her life as I'm trying to do that. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, we're going to get into all the specifics, but I think for me, my feelings have kind of changed here and there. I don't think I would do well being trapped in a home 24/7. Caring for the children. I don't think that's good for my mental personally. And if that happened, I don't really know that they'd get a good mom. Just because you have a mom present
doesn't mean she's present.
Yeah. And it doesn't mean she's healthy. And I think it's more important for a child to have a healthy mom than it is to have a mom who is present the entire time, but maybe sitting on her phone because she can't stand her life. Yeah. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but
yeah. I mean, I watched my wife go through some of the shifts. She grew up, but I want to say by the time she was born, her mom was a stay-at-home mom as well. And so I watched my wife kind of, as we were dating, she was like, I don't want to be a stay-at-home mom. I don't want to homeschool. Like, she's telling me all the things, basically like, kind of like whoever wrote in, like, hey, I'm not your mom. So the things you grew up with is not really who I am. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. That's fine. We'll parse this out a little bit more later. My whole thing is always, however you contribute to the family, contribute to the family. Yeah. Whether that's staying at home and taking care of the kids and the home, or whether that's out here grinding with me as we work and build financial security, things like that. Just contribute to the home. Like, so I'm like, okay, cool. What's crazy is, soon as she got pregnant, like it felt like the day she got pregnant, we found out she was pregnant. She's like, I think I want to stay at home. And so we've been now 5 years on stay-at-home mom, and she's just now getting back to working because she's like, at a place where as you're saying, she wants to get out, wants to, and we've been blessed in being able to have the kids taken care of, and so it's not a huge issue for both of us to be working at something. Now, the question comes in as to what are y'all trying to accomplish as a team, right? If I'm responding to whoever wrote in, the question is, what are you trying to accomplish as a team? What are preferences versus needs, right? What is kind of the pipe dream? If I was the husband and I get to come home to the smell of dinner and a fresh baked pie and the white picket fence and okay, like, but is that the need? Right? Is that what your family needs? And the reason why I'm bringing up need is because in certain areas, maybe the school system is just terrible. And there's a season where mom needs to stay home and homeschool kids. And it's not what we want to do. It's not what, the plan was, but like, I'm not sending my kid to this school and maybe we can't afford the Christian schools, or maybe the Christian schools still aren't what we want. And so it's like, in the same way, I believe somewhere on here she was saying that it feels like she's the one that doesn't have that. She's the one that's what is it? Somehow I'm the one not leaning into my role. Somewhere it was said, I believe, something about having to give something up. Yeah, I missed it.
Can you go back one? This is so cool. Look at us being able to go back.
I think it says somewhere about having to.
We used to split things, not perfectly, but it felt like a team. Now it's little comments. I think the homework's better when the person leads. I work full time. I also run our life, but somehow I'm the one not leaning into my role. His words.
Yes, I think the question needs to be asked to both people. Again, the whole what are the needs, and then are we both equally sacrificing? Right. So, for instance, I'm only speaking as a man, as myself as a man, but it might look like I'm out here running around getting to do whatever I want to do, but that's not the case. I don't get to spend the money exactly how I want to spend the money. I don't get to spend my time exactly how I want to spend the time, and I sacrifice those things for the family, right? And so the question is, again, what is the need? What is the goal? What are we trying to accomplish as a family? And then my parents used to say something. It's not about equal giving. It's about equal sacrifice. Right. So I may be able to give things or provide things that you can't give or provide, and vice versa. But we both equally need to be sacrificing, contributing to the household.
Yeah, I think this is hard, right? Because I hear you. I hear you. But the reality is that for most families, I'm not going to say all, but for most families, as much as, so my husband, for example, he is incredible. Like, I think he does more than most dads probably do. I mean, he changes all of the diapers, because I was like, if I'm, nursing, you change the diapers. So he changes all of the diapers.
Wow.
He's present all the time. We're blessed that he gets to, he works from home, so he's around. He does pick up with me. He sometimes drops off the girls if I have a meeting in the morning. He's around. He takes her to dance class, and we both take him to soccer, and so we do life very much together in so many ways. However, there is still more on me at this age as a mom than it is for him, right? For sure. So in all of the ways that, yes, men, have to go out into the world and work and stuff, or stay home.
Are you saying, let me just clarify, are you saying more period, or are you saying more when it comes to the family?
I think when it comes to the family, right? Because, for example, and I think we got at this in a different conversation too, where we were just saying, the woman is wired, and I know people are going to come at me.
I'm with you.
But I think we're wired to care for the whole family as a whole, in our nature. That is it, right? So the mom is going to be there typically and be like, what are the needs of the kids? Let's make sure they're taken care of. What are the needs of my husband? Let's make sure he's taken care of. Her needs typically go last, right? Where I've found for many men, although yes, they're providing and the stuff, when it comes down to the thing, their first gut instinct is making sure I'm good. Right. And not to say that the brain can't retrain, and my husband's great with stuff like that. But in general, the first thought is me. Right.
Sure.
And so I think we see that happen in families too. So my case is this, like when I'm looking at this situation, first of all, I will say this is a red flag. If before getting married, you've had these conversations and agreed on a certain thing, and now one partner is switching it up, and then having a father-in-law come in or someone from the outside come in and like almost like double teaming, that is just wrong.
So
Flat out.
I agree that the double teaming is wrong.
Yes.
This is something that we need to talk about.
Yes.
However, I will say, I can't say that the flip is.
No, I don't think the flip is
okay,
wrong.
Okay.
No, I don't think the flip is wrong. I think bring in someone else
Yes.
to like double down, hammer the point. I think naturally as we get married, things change. As
Right.
we have children, things change. But the important part is that you're talking to your spouse about it,
Yeah.
not to all of these other people, and then getting them to come into the situation,
Right.
which is creating this space where she has no choice but to be defensive.
Yeah.
Right. Where it really should have been a team. Like, hey, let's talk about this. For the husband, hey, can I talk about what are some of your fears in this? What are you hearing me say?
Yeah.
What do you, right? Because there's some assumption on both parts, I think, that are happening. I think for husbands, I think it's really important to understand that if your wife is a stay-at-home mom, it's not the same as your job, right? Your job is typically 8 hours for the most part or whatever, right? You work in 9 to 5 and maybe you commute or whatever. And then you come home, and then what is the expectation that the dinner is ready, and then you just get to relax and unwind and all the stuff, while your stay-at-home wife who's been with the kids all day has been doing all of the things with the kids and still has to keep going, is now doing the night shift as well because, oh, well, I went out and I earned the bacon. And well, like, no, if you were to pay, right? And I've seen the things, I don't remember the actual like numbers of this, but if you were to pay a woman, a stay-at-home mom, for everything she was actually doing, that you would have to outsource. If you were paying a maid, a professional chef, a nanny, like all of these things, right? She would be making more than you make wherever you're baking it.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'm with you there. And a lot of things is subject to the couple, right? So let's play the game on extremes, right? Say you have a mom who is at home working, stay at home mom. That's her job. That's her responsibility, right? Let's say that same stay at home mom has zero worries for money and is never told you can't buy that thing. So she's shopping, she's doing the whole nine and whatnot. I don't know that I would look at that. And I'm not saying dad comes home and does nothing with the kids. I'm not saying that, because then it goes back to our previous episode of fathers who are present but not present, right? So you need to be there. But like a conversation that my wife and I had when she was doing the stay-at-home mom thing, and there was balance to it, okay? So don't hear this as extremes, but there's balance to it. I told her, I said, hey, look, I need you to understand that if you get to look at me and say, sweetheart, I don't want to have to do any work outside of the home. That's my choice of whether I work outside of the home. I told her, I said, well, then when it comes to the work of home and the work of parenting, I should get to pick what I do, right? And so that does not mean I'm not going to spend time with my children. But if I say I never want to change a dirty diaper, that's the same as her saying I never want to work a 9 to 5.
Yeah, it's not.
Okay.
So it's not.
Okay. Explain it to me.
Because these are our children, and those are needs of our children. And so
Right.
in that case, in that space of time, if you're seeing your wife exhausted and you're saying, oh no, I'm never changing a dirty diaper. So instead of giving her the mental break that she needs, because she's changing diapers,
But that's
through
not
the
what we're
day,
talking about.
through the night.
We're
all
not
that stuff.
talking about I'm exhausted, I need help, because the same could be said for if you see this man busting his hump to work and he's still stressed about bills and things, and you say, I don't want to work, so I'm not gonna work because my job is the home, right? One could say the same thing of like, well, you're not truly being his partner, his helper, because
I'd agree.
Exactly.
I don't have a feeling. So first of all, I believe that if your family wants to make it work and can make it work, okay, then do so.
Right.
I don't personally, and I know families do this, and to each their own, and God bless however people decide to do it. I actually don't believe in having the man work, 80 hours a week because you
Right.
want to stay at home. Okay. And now he is fried. He is not present for the children.
It's not healthy.
That's not healthy
Right.
either, just because you get to stay home. Because what you're saying in essence is the mother is more important than the father in raising a child. And I just don't believe that's true. I think
Right.
that you need that balance there in that space. And yes, the mom provides nurturing, but the father provides identity,
Mm-hmm.
and both are important. And you need to create like a space where they have access and time to both.
Yeah.
And so if my husband is out there literally like, dying to provide just so that I can stay home,
Mm-hmm.
when I can stay home and maybe I can have a little side gig or something or whatever and ease the space,
Right.
then I do think that's my responsibility to do. So I'm not saying that.
Right. So
at
we're
all.
we're saying the same thing, right?
Yeah.
We're saying to avoid the extremes
Yes.
of husband should not be working 80 hours a week
Mm-hmm.
so that you can stay home. Wife should not be doing all the work of kids and home just so that, you can come home and relax and feel
Yes.
good about yourself.
Yeah.
I actually know this couple, and he makes really good money. He's some sort of engineer. Don't ask me what kind, but he's some sort of engineer and makes enough money for, his wife to not worry about working. And he, again, just kind of sort of like I said, he's, to my knowledge, he's never put a cap on don't buy this thing, don't do this thing. They have goals and limits, obviously, but and interestingly, his job offers some sort of childcare through it. And he told his wife he didn't want her to take advantage of that. He didn't want her to use it because he was like, you're too valuable to our home. Like, you're too valuable to our kids to like hand off that responsibility. And it's a lot like I was saying earlier, where like, okay, what's the contribution to the household? And he's like, if we are able to have you be with our kids through the day and whatnot. Now, the trade-off is when he comes home, they really do split everything. He takes the kids from her, he'll cook, he'll change diapers, he'll do the whole nine.
Yes.
To me, that's a healthy balance, right? But I've seen both extremes on the other way too, where it's like the woman takes advantage of every opportunity to not work at home and to not work out here. And I've seen opportunities where the man takes every opportunity to not, provide for his wife and take care of his wife. So again, I go back to, it depends on what the need is and what the two of you are trying to accomplish in your family.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%, which is why it's so important to have those those conversations early on, and also often.
Yeah.
Right. Because things do change. Like in my home, there'll be like seasons where I'm the one cooking and I cook pretty much every day. I just get into these like creative things and I just want to cook and and so I'll cook every time that it's time to cook. And then right now we're in a season where pretty much Phil's cooking most days of the week because he wants to eat at like 5:30 early because he's getting old. Love him. But he wants to have supper, not dinner. You know what I mean? And so I'm like, okay, well, I don't get out of work till 5, and we actually don't come home after we like pick up the girls and everything together until like 5:30 ish. So in order for us to eat at that time, it makes more sense for him to just cook because he works from home already. Yeah. And so we're in a season of him cooking most of the time. Now, if we want some really bomb Puerto Rican food or Italian food or something, then I'm cooking. But, for our day-to-day kind of thing, it's him, and that's okay. And we talk about those adjustments. Yeah. But what it wasn't was, I'm doing this and you're not going to do this. And we're like, no, blah, 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 because that is not a team. Yeah. To me, when, I'm going to say this softly, but like not at the same time.
I was going to say, don't say it softly. Just say it.
I just think, and I might have said this in other places, but I think that if you have a man who's truly a man and truly a lead of the home, he doesn't have to shout it. Oh, he doesn't have to force anything. He doesn't have to have his father-in-law come in and be like, oh, you see, da-da-da. Like, I'm going to be flat out, this man and this sounds cowardly to me because your job as a husband is to protect your wife, and you're not doing that in this situation. Yeah. You're allowing someone else to come in and, demean her in whatever the capacity. It's cowardly. And so I'm like, I got words about that. But I do think that if you are doing what you're meant to be doing, so this is another gender role kind of issue. We're talking about the men now. I don't think that men have to ask for respect. I think that men, if you are a man to be respected, you will receive respect.
Depends on the woman, but yeah.
Well, if you're a man to be respected, hopefully you have picked the right woman.
Hopefully.
But that's on you then.
Sure.
Right? That's on you. Like this is the thing. Like, we are to pick wisely. But if you're a man who is consistently doing things that are questionable, that are not standing up for your wife, that is, lazy or thoughtful or whatever the case may be, not loving your wife, not trying to hide from confrontation, like all of whatever it is, it's going to be harder for a woman to respect a man.
Yeah.
Right. And to want to work and to want to move with whatever they're doing,
Yeah. It's this vicious cycle too, because we're talking around Ephesians 5, right? Love and respect, and the two, I call it the harmony, right? It's hard to tell the chicken before the egg.
Yeah.
Now I'll always point to the man because you're the leader of the home.
Yes.
So it's got to start with you. So I hate the whole, well, she's not respecting me well, so I'm not going to love her well. No, it says as Christ loved the church, and the church did not deserve it, could not earn it. So it starts with you, buddy. I get that 1,000%. I agree with that 1,000%. Another thing here, and I go through multiple passages of scripture in premarital or in marital counseling, but another one I take couples to is Genesis chapter 2. And there's so much in there. I'm going to try not to preach a whole sermon right now. But it starts off with talking about how it's not good for man to be alone.
Yeah.
Right. And so I'll oftentimes walk through with the couples and I'll say, look, can people live single lives? Yes. The Apostle Paul talks about it. He's like, I wish all of you were single so that you could focus on the Lord. However, there are some of us who God knows it ain't good for you to be alone, right? And so prayerfully, you have picked wisely to find the person that like, this is someone that God has created that would be compatible with you and all this. Okay, so we get to, it's not good for man to be alone, so God created female, all this kind of stuff. Okay, something I got to point out here is before God ever created female, he gave Adam a job to do, right? He was tending the garden, he was working. He created female to be a helper, right? And this is not a lower position. This is my partner, this is my helper. So the question I ask to a lot of women is, what are you helping with? What does he need help with, right? What is the most way that you could be helpful? Okay, then we get down to not good for man to be alone, create a helper for him. We get down to for this reason, a man shall leave his father and his mother and shall be united to his wife to become one flesh. I'll usually stop at that point and I'll say, look at the person you're sitting next to or across the table from, whatever. And I say, if you're not willing to forsake all others, and I'll take them back to the old wedding vows. And a lot of times when we hear that in the wedding vows, are you willing to have and to hold, forsaking all others? We think about my ex-boyfriend, my ex-girlfriend. No, this is all others. This is coming out of Genesis 2, leaving your father and mother. So bringing my mom or my dad into this conversation to try to win this argument is unbiblical.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's supposed to be you and me versus the world here. And I always tell them, prayerfully, you don't have to turn your back on your families and your friends and all of that.
Yeah.
But if it should come to it, you need to look at this person that you're considering marrying and say, are they worth it?
Yeah.
And if you've got pause, if you've got questions, you need to prolong this engagement, do some more research, do some more prayer, because it's you and this person versus the world.
Yeah.
Then it ends, that section anyway ends verse 25, and it says Adam and his wife were both naked and unashamed. And I'll usually explain how that's not just a physical nakedness. This is before the entrance of sin.
Right.
So there's no barriers between the two of them. And so with that, I encourage couples when you're talking about these roles in the family, let's not play the games, right? If there is a insecurity, if there is a need, right? If the husband genuinely comes to his wife and he's like, something that I need from you, let's go back to the original situation that I said, if school systems were terrible and this was terrible, honey, I understand that none of us, this wasn't our plan to be in this situation. But something that I really need from you is to invest in our kids for these first 5 years. And I'll do everything I can to be there with you, to help you out. It's not all going to be on you, but like, this is what I need from you. Can we get past the games of the ego and I'm the man, so you got to do what I say, or the manipulation of, you ain't my boss, you can't tell me what to do. Like, can we be naked and unashamed? Can we just have some real conversations about what you need from me and what I need from you?
Well, I think we can if everything is set up properly, but so often it's not. That's the issue. So I'm looking at this particular situation, right? And women are not going to outright always be able to identify, right? So in here, she says, I feel disrespected, I feel embarrassed, all these other words. the word that's missing here is I don't feel safe. Because this is what this is here. I don't feel safe. My husband does not have my back, right? And so if he doesn't have my back right now, before the kids, before we're in a place of vulnerability, right? Because it is vulnerability for a woman to say, I'm going to give up my career, trust this man to financially have us, that he doesn't change his mind and decide he wants to start a whole nother family or just a fling. And there's a lot of trust that comes in saying, okay, I'm going to give up my career and like not have anything. Yeah. Right. Ideally, that's fine. That's why you got married to the person. You trust them. However, what happens when the person is creating an environment like this one that we're reading about, that we're hearing about, that doesn't feel safe? If I'm the woman here, the way that this has been approached, I don't feel safe. I feel like there's ulterior motives here. There's other stuff going on. And so, okay, how then does this man ever convince her that he will have her back? Right. Because at this moment, when nothing's at stake yet, he doesn't have her back. Right. When we have to address that, like it all starts those foundations that we're laying right now. I have no nervousness about whether or not Phil would, take care of me if anything went south, right? Yeah. Never anticipate anything going south. But if something happened like that, because of the integrity of the man, of who he is, of who I know he is, I know that myself and my girls will be fine. Okay. I also choose to work, right? I'm in a space where I don't have to work, right? He's like, babe, if you want to, go for it. If you don't, whatever, right? Yeah. And so I have that safety, but because of who he is and because of the relationship we have, that it was fine for me to sit at home for 9 months, right? Now, I'll tell you, when we first got married, that was the harder piece of trusting everything. Because when we first got married, I was coming from like hustle culture, right? Living in New York City, working crazy hours, just making all the money, paying off all my debt by myself. Like I was hustling, doing all the stuff. Then all of a sudden now I'm married. And my boss, listen, testimony for days, but like my boss from New York City, older Southern man, who is very like progressive, but surprisingly in this area pretty conservative. Yeah. And it literally told me, well, like, a young girl getting married her first year shouldn't have to work. And I was like, okay, like a little taken aback. But what ended up coming out of that is that he wrote up a deal where he paid me my full-time salary to work 10 hours a week. Wow. Basically consulting and doing some curriculum stuff or whatever, so that I could have my whole first year to just focus in on getting married. No, mind you, I was leaving the company. I moved 4 states, 4 hours away, different state, everything like that. And so now all of a sudden, from hustle, I find myself newly married in a new state, new home. My husband at the time was working in Virginia, so he was commuting to work and gone all day. And I'm at home doing what? Like twiddling my thumbs. I don't have any friends. I don't have family down here, like nothing. And I'm sitting in this home now and like, what am I going to do? Yeah. And what happened during that time period is I became like increasingly insecure because I'm like, oh, well, even though I was making money, I could be making more money. And I'm just sitting here like, what am I doing? And like, all of a sudden I'm like, okay, I got to prove that I'm like worth my keep, I guess, in that space. So I'm like, okay, now I told you I was like making these like insane gourmet 3-4 course meals every night as he was coming home, because I want to prove I'm doing something, right? Like I'm not just here taking up space, Yeah. And like I remember the day, one day he came home and like ate up all the food. It was great. And he's like, babe, you don't have to do this every day. And I was like, well, I feel like I'm not doing. He's like, it's fine. Like you don't have, he's like, I'll eat just like meat and potatoes. Like he was very like, he's like, I love all this. This is great, but you don't have to like exhaust yourself throughout the day. Just relax. Yeah. And he gave me that permission to relax, to not feel like, oh my gosh, if I don't earn my keep, I can't stay. Yeah. But I'm telling you, this is something that we talked about it, we crafted it, but that was the insecurity there. Like I have to be this traditional, whatever the case may be. Right now, we've been married 7 years. We have 2 kids. Things have changed. I'm still going to be homeschooling my girls, but I'm still working full time. Yeah. And thank God we have some resources here. But even if we didn't, I was just going to flip the way that the schedule worked and homeschool her in the mornings and the evenings instead of during the day period of time, and still work out the way we're going to do it, because there are things that are important to me. Yeah. I do feel like personally, I want to have more time in what my daughter learns than what the school systems are going to teach them, right? And I
Yeah.
want her to be learning those values and those things from me and from my husband. And so those things are still important. So we're going to find a way to make that work together. But it's not going to be at the expense then of God is calling me to both ministries, to
Yeah.
my ministry at home with my children and my husband, but he's also calling me to ministry for the kingdom of God.
Yeah. Yeah. There's two things there that you kind of got into that I want to expand a little bit more. The first is how you're built, right? So even while you're at home, you're like, gotta do something, right? And there's part of that is unhealthy, right? Because it shouldn't be out of insecurity, it shouldn't be out of gotta prove myself. But there's part of that is very healthy, right? Because God has created us. Okay, we don't read too much about Eve's job other than she was made to be a helper, right? Adam had this whole garden, and here's the crazy part: we don't get real timelines in the garden, so they could have been 6,000 years. I don't know. Well, not that long because we do get ages for when they died, but it could have been some stint of years before Adam and Eve actually sinned and were kicked out of the garden. We don't know that time frame, so we don't know what Eve's job was as his helper. But God didn't say I created her to be a sitter.
Yeah.
He didn't say I created her to just be arm candy, right? Yeah. She was working. She was doing something, right? So there's part of that, how you're built. Now the question is, how are you built? And you've mentioned things like the Myers-Briggs. You've mentioned things like the Enneagram. You've mentioned obviously we talk about things like a relationship with the Holy Spirit to help figure out your gifting and who you are. Because, said all this to say, there are some women who would be in the position that you were in and would be perfectly fine and within their wheelhouse and happy, right, doing the cooking and, oh, I'm going to make fresh bread and I'm going to do the gardening and I'm going to do this. And literally, by the time husband comes home, they've also done an 8-hour work day around the house. And I don't mean work day in quotations to be, but at home, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. You find the women who enjoy that and that's what they were called to. In addition to that, you have women that, like you said, were called by God into spaces in ministry. And I have this conversation with a friend of mine about marketplace missions, marketplace ministry. And so there are school teachers, there are lawyers, doctors, women in these positions where they are being just as used by God as their husbands are in their respective fields and things like that. I have no problems with any of that. My whole thing is back to, again, what has God called you to do? Do you know what your own gifting is and how you're wired? And then, are you contributing to your household? Yeah. Those are the 3 bottom line questions.
Yeah. I mean, I think in all spaces, I think there's no excuse for laziness. Yeah. In either case, right? So I think the line of stay-at-home wife and stay-at-home mom is different.
Sure.
Okay. So if I'm a stay-at-home wife, I have no children, and I genuinely, my job is clean up the house, which shouldn't be that incredibly messy if there's no kids living there, right? And make sure that dinner is ready when my husband comes home. I'm going to make sure to do those things all the time. And then if my husband comes home and he needs to rest, then he can rest, because I've maybe been resting the rest of the day. I've been going get my nails done. Maybe I did a Target run, whatever. Then okay, cool, that's fine. But I think once kids get into the mix, it's completely different, because your wife is not at home resting. Yeah, she's working, and in many cases working a lot harder. I mean, there's most men who, if you had to switch and make the husband stay
Absolutely
at home
not.
5 days. Right.
Absolutely
exactly.
not.
They would die. They would not. And I think actually that's the solution to all the ego, to all the man, to all this mess, is if they could just literally switch. You go stay, right? You sit here for 5 days, and I feel like real quick we'll have all the men change their tune, because it is work. It is work engaging with little ones, right? And if you want to really be there, do it right? If you're not just ignoring the kid, right? And so I think that space we have to talk to, but I think there's so many men who don't get it because they're not present. Yeah. They're not fully present at home. Maybe they come home and they play with the kid for an hour before it's bedtime that the wife is doing, right? And again, this is not, every case. I'm not generalizing men or women for that matter, but I'm just in most spaces, this is kind of what you see the complaints about, right? This idea. And I think that for this woman, I think this might be part of what she's worried about. She's already saying, there's a line here that she says, I work full time. I also run our life. Yeah. Okay. So she's already picking up all of the mental tasks that need to be done. She's probably already doing chores. She's probably planning everything, making sure everybody gets their places on time. She's already running the life, maybe the finances, maybe all of the stuff, right? And he's already taking her for granted.
Yeah.
This is only going to grow when the children come, because if he's in the mindset right now that it's just the woman's job, then he's not going to step up for her when he needs it. And that's a real conversation that needs to be had without the father and mother-in-law present. It needs to be a conversation between the two of them. And he needs to show you that before you decide to have kids. Before you decide to have kids.
Yeah.
Having kids is not going to fix where he's at right now.
It's going to further complicate
Yes, it's going to make it harder. And I want to come back to this because, men lead, women support. I think this is, a line that we can see in the Bible, right? This
Sure.
biblical standard, right? Men lead, women support.
Yeah.
Because of this word helper.
Yeah.
Which again, the idea behind it, I think you talked about this in a different podcast, that helper, we have made helper seem like it's this afterthought.
Right.
This little whatever, like I'm already lifting this thing, you put a finger on it and it tips over kind of thing. But that's not the case. That word that we talk about for helper there is Ezer, right? Ezer, E-Z-E-R.
I believe so, yeah.
Ezer, which is actually the only other place that this is used is to describe the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit, which empowers you to do things. The Holy Spirit, which guides and leads and all of that. That is what this word is saying.
Right.
It's not saying just, okay, yeah, I'm going to just follow him like a dumb little sheep and he's going to throw our whole life into the No, as the wife, you're supposed to say, hey, let's talk about this vision. It might be leading us into an abyss, right?
Yeah.
That he might not see because he's so excited about whatever the case may be. And so often we've interpreted it to be like, no, I just got to be quiet and help him along with whatever his little dream is.
Yeah.
And I've seen families be ruined by this, by a man insisting that this is his dream and this is the way. And then the family is broke. The family is suffering. The family has no communication, no guidance. And then because I'm trying to do it the biblical right way, I've never actually provided any type of actual push, counsel, help.
Yeah. So it's just song and dance, right? Because there's a tension in there. And I'm going to go back to something you said earlier. If that's the case, then part of it's on her for choosing the wrong man.
Yes.
Right? If he's insisting on this is the way and this is clearly not the way, then we have a bigger problem here. Because when you get a man who is a man of God, right? I do believe there are spaces where he needs to say, babe, this is where I feel God breathing into. This is where we're going, right? And she might not always agree with that. And biblically speaking, yes, we have the conversation. It's not I said it, so shut up, we don't talk about it. No, but biblically speaking, even if you disagree, this is where we've got to go. This is where we're going. Now, let's have the conversation that a man of God is not going to trample over his wife. It's not just I said it and I'm the man.
Yeah.
In the 9 years I've been married to my wife, I have never pulled the husband card, the biblical husband card of we will because I said so, right? We disagree a ton, right? We disagree on things and we sit down, we have conversations, and there's time where she's like, I'm not sure I like this, but we'll give it a shot. And there's times where I say, I'm not sure I like this, but we'll give it a shot. And I talk to men all the time and I explain to them, good leadership is this tension between making the choices and delegating the choices. I think about even where we work. There's Pastor Mike, who's our senior pastor, and he is biblically and on paper the leader of our network of churches. He's the leader of our organization. If anything goes wrong, it traces back to him, right? But realistically speaking, Pastor Mike is not in every meeting and in every little granular detail of every little thing. He delegates the authority to his, if I can use this word, helpers, right? To the people that he has been given by God to help him accomplish the task that has been given to New Life as an organization, right? Now, in that, he needs to have say, he needs to have weight, he needs to have biblical vision. But there are times that Pastor Mike will look at me or Dave and say, it's your call because you're the one in the weeds of this thing, right? Yeah. Now, if he feels God saying no to what me or Dave are, thinking or praying, Pastor Mike will speak up and say, no, I don't feel like that's, where we're supposed to go. I believe that's the same way a marriage is supposed to look, where biblically speaking, the husband is the lead. There's no way around that. And the wife is the support. But a good lead is going to look at his wife who supports him and says, hey, babe, if you're the one, like you see the money coming in and out all the time anyway, I'm not going to hold your hand on like how to do this and how to do that and where to pull from here. And I can tell you the vision that in 10 years, I'd like to pay off our mortgage early, or I'd like to pay off our cars, and then I'm going to leave it to you to figure out, how we do this. And if she comes back and says, well, I don't know that paying off the mortgage would actually be beneficial because I watched this Dave Ramsey video or I did this. Oh, snap. You're more educated in this than I am. Yeah. Teach me something, right? That doesn't make me any less the leader of the house. Yeah. That makes me a better leader of the house.
Yeah. I think this is the issue, though, that most people don't receive leadership training before getting married. Right. So we're assuming that people are going to carry out their leadership roles well, which is not the case because you know what? Most organizations, even with leaders, don't carry well. It is rare when an organization is run well. It is rarer when a church is run well, right? With organizations. So we know how hard it is. We can see that this is hard because there is this breakdown in most spaces, right? And so I think this is the problem. Like, and I'm thinking about it's like even dawning on me right now, how much time do we spend in premarital counseling on leadership values and lessons? We don't really. And I think we should, right? Now I'm thinking about, I'm like, oh man, this is something we need to add to the premarital counseling because I don't think most people understand what it means to lead, right? What it means to empower. And so what we end up with then is this like tight grab on something this by default, my wife is not respecting me and you need to submit. And the Bible says submit. Well, the Bible calls for mutual submission too. And I think the way that this works out practically is in the same way. There are times when my husband and I are not lock and step, right? And so what will happen in that space is I need to pray. God, if I'm right in this thing and this is the right thing for our family, God, would you help him see it? And he needs to be doing the same thing if he wants to go in a direction and I'm not seeing it, right? But so often what people do is they try to barrel through their point. No, we're going to do it this way. And like, okay, well, you can do that, but know that it's going to cause tension in your marriage. It's going to cause, because you're trying to do it without the Holy Spirit, without the helper. You're trying to do it without the helper, right? And so there's a space of this where I will tell you that most of the time, my husband, and again, I have to come back to like, I really, really trust him. He makes great decisions, right? And I've seen him make great decisions. So but over time, it just compounds of me being able to trust more and more that if he says left, we're going to go left. There's certain things I don't even need to question, right? But there are areas in which, like you said, I'm more visible or I'm just more sensitive to, right? And so, I'm going to push back if I see something that is not aligned with it. And sometimes we just process differently, right? My husband processes in this way. He's more a task-oriented person. I'm more of a people-oriented person. And so he's thinking about something from this angle, which is not necessarily wrong. It's just missing this piece. And I might, on the other hand, be thinking about this too much and not seeing. And this is how we come into balance and help. But if we are so stuck on, okay, well, the man is the one who always has to have the vision to say the way, the left, the right, the up, the down, and I'm not going to hear anything that has to do it. Well, I think that's a foolish man, a foolish leader, right? So maybe part of the solution here is leadership training and what this looks like to properly delegate and to help something grow. We need to study growing marriages. Marriages should always be growing and expanding for the better. Otherwise, you're dying, right? And so I think this is one of these things. You have an opportunity, coming back to the woman who wrote in about this, but you have an opportunity here to interrupt something that could really be catastrophic as you move forward because you don't have kids yet. And so I will also say this, like, I know you said here, I'm looking back at the script, it says, you said that that's not a decision you get to make for me. His dad doubled down and I pushed back harder than I should have. And so what I will say is, even if you are right, but you already are feeling convicted about it, like, don't ignore that, right? You can go in and come back and just say, hey, I should not have been so forceful with this thing, but I do need to have some boundaries. And, things like my children are off limits. Now, I will also say, I'm going to push back that it should be your job to apologize. It should be your husband's job to tell your dad that there are boundaries because it's his dad. And he should be willing to do that for you. Hey, Tony, can you move down to the next slide for me for a sec? And then similarly here, we have your husband telling you that he was embarrassed by the disrespect in the space. And so again, I understand that you are feeling disrespectful. So there's disrespected as well. I think there's two ways to go about this. You either head on, just apologize to husband. I'm sorry, I did not mean to disrespect you. And I did. This is something you feel strongly about. I did, period. And then another day say, hey, I really need you to have my back.
Yeah.
And you can take that route. Or you can sit there and you can be like, well, you disrespected me first. And then the resolution is not really going to come there because now you're stuck in this like power match, this power battle. But I think overall, I think that there are different expectations.
And let me just say, I know this is anonymous, but whoever might be listening and like, that's really familiar. That's probably my wife who wrote that in, right? We recognize this is one side of the story. Mm-hmm. And the reason why I'm pointing this out is because I asked him it says here, I asked him if he actually expects me to stop working one day. He said, I think it would be better for our family. Mm-hmm. That hurt. Okay, this whole conversation is around hurt. Yes, mm-hmm. there are practical and safe lines that were crossed. Like mm-hmm. we talked about, you shouldn't be bringing in your dad or your mom mm-hmm. to try to win this fight. But let's be honest, that line, I think it would be better for our family. There's nothing wrong with that line, right? There's nothing wrong with your husband or your wife, for that matter, coming to you saying, hey, I think this would be better for our family if we change this thing. Mm-hmm. If wifey came to you and said, hey, I think it would be better if you changed careers because you're out of the house all mm-hmm. the time mm-hmm. and it's detrimental to our family, that might hurt because mm-hmm. you might be a driven ER doctor who thrives on getting that call at 2 a.m. and rushing out, right? And it would hurt, and it would initially feel like she's coming against me. Mm-hmm. And this is what's happening here when he's saying, I think it might be better mm-hmm. if you were home with the kids. It feels like he's attacking you mm-hmm. and your career and your dreams and your aspirations. Mm-hmm. So we have to stop a little bit and ask ourselves, yes, was he wrong for the way it took place? Mm-hmm. Yes. But he was not wrong for the thought he had mm-hmm. or for expressing that to you. Mm-hmm. Now, the way it was expressed, we don't get all the details here, mm-hmm. but the conversation being had at home and the fact that it hurt you doesn't mean it was wrong, mm-hmm. right? So I got to say that we need to slow down, have the conversation and address hurt for what it is. The fact that you told us that hurt, my question would be, did you tell him that? Mm-hmm. Like, did you tell him that I feel like you're attacking me when you say these things about my career? I had that conversation with my wife early on in ministry because early on in ministry, my wife did not agree with, okay, we pay you X amount, but there's going to be random funerals and mm-hmm. there's going to be the phone call you get to go to the hospital mm-hmm. and there's Christmas week where we're every night of the week we're here doing rehearsals and mm-hmm. this and that. And early on in our ministry career, my wife is like, I just don't agree with that. I feel mm-hmm. like churches take advantage of people, and there are churches that do mm-hmm. that, right? And so there came a point I spent 4 years in vocational ministry before I got to this place. And it was somewhere within the first 4 or 5 years. It might have been somewhere in the first year here or toward the end of the other place I was at. But I looked at her and I said, I need you to understand how I feel when you say these things. And I know she's trying to defend me mm-hmm. when she says these things. She's talking about churches that take advantage, right? But I had to calm down because I very well could have just snapped back and, how dare you? This is what's putting bread on our table. Mm-hmm. And, but I had to recognize she's not coming at me. Mm-hmm. She's coming at the career and she's coming at a misconception of the career, right? Something that happens in other places, but it's not what's happening right here, right mm-hmm. now. So I would just caution whoever you are to, if you haven't already had that conversation with your husband, to have that conversation of, hey, this is how I feel when you bring this thing up. No, I think that's a really good thing. I want to not push, but just add in, because now I'm coming back and reading some of the stuff here. But again, it comes back to, is there room for her to come back in and say, this is how this made me feel? Or is it all about whatever his vision is? Because at this point, he is bringing in other people to sort of reaffirm whatever's going on. Right. The question I have is because nothing's happened yet, right? She's not staying home yet. Mm-hmm. They don't have kids yet. And yet there's this line here that says, like, I'm slowly disappearing in my own marriage. And so this leads me to believe that there's other stuff going on as well. This is another little cherry, I guess. We might need to go back to our toxic people episode.
Maybe
revisit.
because for you to come already and say like, oh, I feel like I'm disappearing in my own marriage, but nothing's happened yet.
Yeah.
Is it my voice is disappearing? Like I'm not being heard anymore? Because the roles haven't changed just yet. This is all hypothetical at this point from what is being said. So I would be curious in seeing, is this just symptomatic of a larger issue, of a deeper issue of how you feel in the marriage and what's going on there? The other thing I want to say is like, he says I'm being defensive, but he says that he's just sharing a vision, but it doesn't feel like his vision, which means that she feels like he's being influenced by his dad and what he wants.
Yeah.
I can relate to this a little bit, right? And again, part of this is like, hopefully this is okay. We'll find out later. But I definitely think that when my in-laws, right, like when we were just dating in college and young, I was a very different person then, but also like they just didn't know me. They're not the type to like ask questions, right? They just kind of like, oh, you're in the space, but they're not gonna like ask. So there was like some assumptions made about my character and who I was based off of very generic things.
Sure. From
New York City, I went to an expensive school, so I must be rich and I must be like super like fancy and need all of the things, none of which are true, right? I grew up, my mom was a single mom. I grew up hustling, didn't have, anything. I always had money because I always worked a lot, right? And so I was good with what I had, but the things that they thought of me were not true. And so I remember at some point that after Phil and I like graduated from college and all this stuff, there was this like tension of like, where was he going to go? And he was meant to come, or he had agreed, we had fought like all of our last year, but he was going to come to New York because I got a job in New York City. And it was only supposed to be a 2-year contract. And then I was like, hey, after the 2-year contract, I'm down. We'll move wherever you want to go. That was the deal. And then he very last minute was like, I'm not moving to New York City. And I was like, I'm not doing a long distance relationship. Right. In the midst of all this, I feel like his in-laws were very much in his ear about the type of woman that he actually needed, because there was this narrative set of like
your in-laws,
my in-laws now. Yeah. And I love them. We're fine. But back then, I think that they had an image of who I was that wasn't actually true, but they were kind of feeding this narrative to him. Like, oh, you need this like country girl. You need this girl with values and like, morals and, who's going to like, soft wife kind of thing, and I'm this like rigid, fast-paced hustle girl from New York City, and it's incompatible, right? Well, that hurt me deeply, right? Yeah. Finding that out was like, it really, because one, you don't even know me, but two, it didn't feel like the words were coming from my husband.
Yeah.
Like it was such a random thing. Like I remember we had this one argument one time, and he had mentioned something about like baking cookies, and I was like, what are you talking about right now? Like I cook. How did you eat all through college? Like I was paying for it. I was making it. We were like, like, what are you talking about right now? And he was like, well, I just need a girl who's going to like bake cookies. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Right. And like, it just didn't sound like him. It was this vision that he had that I just knew wasn't coming from him. And so like, I fought that like very like harshly. No, mind you, I bake cookies. Guess who else does? My husband. We're bakers. We love baking, right? So we do all this stuff anyway, and we bake bread and like all that, good stuff, right? But it was a point of like, this is not your vision. Yeah. You're sitting, you're hearing, you're listening to all these other voices, and it almost wrecked you because you almost ended up with the wrong person, right? And now we have this beautiful life. Thank God that God worked it all out. But in this, I think that visions, once you're married, so this was a pre-marriage vision. This case, y'all are married. So that vision needs to be shared by the two of you. And this is why I'm going to say, yes, the husband, whatever, is the spiritual lead. But also there's this like tricky little language that talks about two becoming one. One flesh, meaning you're one person. Yeah. Meaning the two individuals, in order to become married, have to do what? Die. They die to self.
Have to leave your father and mother and cling onto your wife. Yeah.
And they become one.
Yeah.
And so this is why for me it's really important that the vision should be shared.
Yeah.
Okay. And so if it's not shared yet, I think that both parties need to be patient, right? Because if the thing is the thing that needs to happen and God is going to make it happen, then give God the time to work on your spouse's heart before trying to like literally plow down the other person to get your way. I think that we don't trust God enough in this. We don't trust God enough in our disagreements in our things. I think a lot of times there's so many stories that I hear, and I've seen it in my own life too, that one spouse does get the vision and the first person not on board, and they just waited.
Yeah.
They prayed and they waited, and all of a sudden the other spouse woke up and was like, you know what? We should move across the country. I think I'm, and there's such beauty in just the trust, not even in your spouse, but in God, to make all of those things work out for good.
Yeah, I think it's an ebb and flow with that too. There is definitely a time to wait, but there are times, and I've seen it in my life, I've seen it in the life of others, on both sides, the husband and the wife, husband being the spiritual lead, wife being helper, all that to become one. But there will still be times where it's like, I'm not sure about this, but I trust you. Like back to what I was saying earlier, where it's like, okay, babe, like you're the one who does this, right? So, like you're in the weeds with homeschooling Brooklyn right now. So like if you say she's ready for a tutorial this coming fall, then like, okay, let's do it. If you think she should skip a grade because, and I just want to brag real quick, my girl is smart. Like we've been doing some homeschooling with her, and she's been blowing me away. Anyway, if wifey says, hey, this will be challenging for Brooklyn, it'd be a little hard, but I really think this is where she's at. I'm not in a position right now to challenge that because I'm not the one doing homeschooling with Brooklyn. I don't know about this. I don't know how I feel about it, but like, I'm going to trust you in this. And it's gone both ways. There's been moments where I'm like, hey babe, I really, in fact, we just recently had a conversation, maybe, I don't know, 2 months ago, where I was like, hey, look, as I'm looking into our lives, these are the things that looks like God's breathing into. This is the way that I feel like God is like calling our family, which means everything needs to fit into to this, right? I actually used the analogy. I was like, I want you to think of it as like a highway. It's an 8-lane highway. So there are 8 lanes to choose from, but like the highway is still headed in this direction. And it was an ongoing conversation. It had been an ongoing conversation. And then we got to this place where she's like, all right, I don't like how I feel about it, but I trust you, and I see what you're saying, where God's breathing into this, God's breathing into that. So let's invest where God is breathing into, right? And so I said all that to say there are times where we don't have to make a move right now, so let's not make a move right now. We can just wait until Holy Spirit brings us both to the same level of confirmation. But then there are other times where I don't know, but I trust you, and I trust the God in you, and that goes on both sides. I could take it to John the Baptist's parents, Elizabeth and Zachariah, was it?
Sure.
I think it was Zachariah. It was something with a Z. But God actually appeared to her first. The angel appeared to her first, and no. I think so. Appeared to her. I should know this. I'm getting all mixed up right now. Either way, the husband was the one who was slower to believe. Wasn't sure about it all. He's like, I don't know about this. God ended up actually closing his mouth. He wasn't able to speak until the baby was born. And you should just read the story for yourself because I'm butchering it right now. But there's this idea of like, God can speak to both people. This is one story that people like to point out where God speaks to the woman, confirms it with the woman. God spoke to Mary, the mother of Jesus, right? And then spoke to Joseph, confirming it. And so there's these areas where I'm not always going to receive revelation first, and I need to be willing to say, I trust you, I trust the God in you. And again, that goes both ways. It's not always going to be we're both on the same page at the same speed. I haven't seen it work that way as a whole all the time.
Yeah, and I don't want anybody to like misunderstand what I'm saying either, because 2 things. One, I think vision and decision are different, right? Vision and decision, different things. And so I think you can move forward with different levels of agreement.
I got
vision
you.
And decision.
But where we are headed, I got you.
But the other thing is, now I'm missing what I was going to say. Man. So let's go back to the vision and decision. So let me expand on that real quick. So I think with vision, to me, it always seems like a larger thing. Right. And so I think you do need to wait for your partner to be in agreement. And I think if you don't, you're setting yourself up for trouble. And I don't want to do that. I want to give us the best possibility, because over a career, over a lifestyle, it is my spouse.
Yeah.
Okay. And so as much as I love the thing that I'm doing or the place that I'm living and whatever, if my spouse is going to be miserable,
yeah,
I don't want that kind of family. just to say, oh yeah, my vision worked out the way. Because I can guarantee you that your vision doesn't include a miserable spouse. Your vision probably doesn't include divorce. Your vision doesn't probably include infidelity, right? But all of these little things where we do chip away at the person, when we don't realize that we're not listening or we're not hearing, those contribute to the very things that we don't want.
Right.
So often you can get very tunnel vision on what the vision is that you miss everything else. And so that to me is a bigger thing. You need agreement. Even if the person didn't agree at first or whatever, they're slow to hesitation, but that you've come to a place where you decided, yes, we're going to walk this way.
Yeah.
Right? We need to be lock and step. And then decisions, that might be something that you might be able to move forward with, even though the other person doesn't necessarily agree with, right? And then you're going to have to, you're just going to have to wait and see kind of thing. And that has happened in our state. Like, I really don't think we should go to that place today. And we end up going and it's horrible. I'm like, well, I told you that much. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? And we're going to do the thing.
Right.
Right. And, but that's not going to derail our life.
Yeah.
That's not going to derail our life. This to me is a difference, for a man who wakes up one day and is like, okay, I want to move to a different country because I want to pursue a job that I've never even heard him speak about. Well, God just gave me this vision last night. Okay, well, we're going to sit down and we're going to wait a little bit so God can show me too. Okay? You're not just going to pick up and go because on a whim you had this thing. And that also doesn't create a sense of safety for your spouse.
Right.
Right. So there needs to be that space. But if he's just like, baby, no, thinking of going bald. Well, I'm going to take my AI out and show the person what they look like.
For those of y'all
bald man
listening, I need you to know she's calling me out right now because I told the team I was considering shaving my hair. Actually, I cut my hair super low today.
Did you?
I did.
Okay.
I did. Not nowhere near bald.
Okay.
But I'm testing the waters. I'm testing the waters.
You don't need to. We have AI for this.
Maxine did an AI of me bald. I just don't think it's accurate.
It is so accurate.
It was terrible.
It is horrifying.
It looked terrible. I just don't think it's accurate.
He wants to guys, in the comments right now, he wants to preemptively go bald.
Let me tell you why.
Just wait for nature.
No. That's the problem. It's a power thing. If I do it, then I take the power from nature.
But you don't even know if it's going to happen. You have no idea if it's going to happen.
There are signs.
Yeah.
I look at my uncles. I look at my father. Uncles on both sides, by the way.
Oh gosh, see, this is how we go. Anyway, this is a decision, right? And thank God my husband's not having these ideas solid, but I have the AI ready to go in case he ever does. In fact, one time while we were in college, everybody was getting a mullet, and my husband decided to get it. My husband does not have mullet head shape thing, and it was awful. I knew it would be awful. He didn't listen, and he made the decision anyway.
I've never seen his hair long.
No.
Does it fall?
It does not fall. This is why it's not a good look.
For the record, Phil, I think you look great bald. Should you ever decide to?
I don't think he will go bald. So family, right? Looking at all the men in his family, they all still have like full head of hair and stuff like that. So I don't know that he would. I don't even know how we got here, guys. Bring us back.
Decisions versus vision.
But that's a decision, right? So if he was going to make that decision, even though I babe, I don't know, it's something that I would be like, all right, go ahead. And I didn't agree with it, but I'd be like, what can I do? It's a decision, right? And so I think we need to spend different time and put different weight on things. This here is part of a life vision that they're seeing.
Yeah.
So they need to come into agreement before they move forward, because let's say she gives in for the sake of just giving in. And now she's got 2-3 kids. She's staying at home. So much happens with a woman, by the way, that men don't fully understand because you don't have the hormones.
We cannot empathize.
Exactly. Don't know how the hormones are going to be. You don't know if she's going to end up, God forbid, postpartum depression, postpartum anxiety, any other complications. You don't know the children, their personalities, their dispositions, like any of that. You have no control over any of this stuff. Now you're forcing her to stay home.
Yeah.
And now you have a wife who has no joy in her eyes.
Yeah. Life
completely zapped out.
Yeah.
But she's home with the kids. Well, was that your vision?
Right.
No.
Yeah, I think in that circumstance, from my perspective, and we didn't get this here, I added this in, the whole bad school zones, all that kind of stuff. So I'd like you to be home with the kids. If the choice is a miserable wife or we got to find a new place to live, find a new school zone, we find a new place to live.
Yeah.
Right now, if she looks and says, no, I don't want to move, I like this area.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, now we need to have the conversation, because in this conversation my wife and I have back and forth, you can't have it all.
Yeah.
Right. So if you don't want to stay home and you don't want to send our kid, like we mutually don't want to send our kids to the public school system, what do we want to
Yeah.
do? Right.
Yeah.
And so
But
back
see,
to
you,
the whole,
the key word you just said there is, what do we want to
Right.
do?
right.
Not, well, this is what I'm going to do no matter what, so get with the program. And
Yeah.
by the way, since you're not getting with the program, I'm going to have my father-in-law come in every 10 seconds. And
Yeah.
right, which is what's going on here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mind things. I think we spend too little time on the things that really matter.
Mm.
Right? There are things that we should just take our time deciding. Who we marry is
Yes.
the
God.
biggest
Yes.
decision you will make in your entire life. And I know you believe he's perfect in 3 months. I know it. I know God told you that he is your husband in 3 months. But could you just wait? It is the biggest decision that you will ever make. It changes everything.
Everything.
Right. And so there's stuff like that we need to take our time. And then, like, so we don't do that, but then we take forever deciding, if we're going to join a local church or not.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what are you talking about? Like, we need to have our priorities straight. We need to have the things that matter up front at most, doing the thing, spend more time there. Like, yeah, you need to be at a local church. That doesn't need to be a lifelong decision trying to figure it out. Maybe which one.
Right.
But not that you have. Yeah, you should be in community. That's not something that I need to like spend 20 hours thinking about.
Yeah.
Right. You need to spend time on certain things. This is one of those areas, because how you do this, which is also why before you get married, you need to be having not just lighthearted conversations, not just, do I enjoy being around this person when they're happy and when they're good and when we're on a date?
Yeah.
But what happens when we disagree? And if you haven't had a disagreement yet, a real good, harsh disagreement yet, it's not time for you to get married.
Yeah.
It's not ready. You need to see how that works out.
I heard one pastor say, you can never know enough about someone to commit to forever.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, it's just impossible, because life's changed, seasons
People change.
people change. Yeah, I thought about that as it pertains to, if you marry someone and both parents are alive, grandparents are alive, or whatever, you don't know how they're going to react to their parent dying.
Yep.
You don't know how they might react to a miscarriage. You
Yeah.
you don't know these things.
Yep.
He said, however, you can get to know enough about a person, and we've talked about this in season 1 and all throughout season 2 so far. You can get to see those character traits,
Yeah.
those spiritual traits of good soil, good seed that's been planted. And by the time you get ready to marry them, you should not just see the seeds planted, you should see some sprouting. You should see some things happening there. And I think, going back to what you're saying about giving the proper things the amount of time that they need, that's one of them. Is you, man, when you said not just having lighthearted conversation, we are digging in. Like, so my wife and I, we dated for a total of 3.5 years before engagement. Then we did a 6-month engagement. I was like, we dated this long, and we dated very intentionally.
Yeah.
We were digging in, having real conversations, your deepest, darkest secrets kind of conversations within the first year, within the first probably 6 months or so. Because we were friends for about 1.5 years before we started dating. And then that next 6 months of dating, we were trying to figure out, let's not waste our time. We were babies at the time. I'm 17, she's 19, and I'm still looking at her like, I'm not here to waste your time. Please don't waste mine. Like, let's have the necessary conversation. And over that 3.5 years, I learned enough about her to know that I know who I'm marrying. So whatever happens in the future, I know who I married. I know what's there.
Yeah.
We're not always going to agree,
Yeah.
but I know 2 things. I know she loves the Lord. I know she loves me and respects me. And I know that she will, and at this point does, love our children.
Right.
Everything else, we're going to grow in, we're going to ebb and flow in. But those 3 things, beyond the shadow of a doubt, stand 10 toes down, I'm sure.
Yeah.
If you can't say those 3 things, that they love the Lord beyond the shadow of a doubt, that they're submitted to him, they love me, and they will love our family. If you don't know those things, don't do it.
Yeah.
Back up.
Yeah.
Slow down.
Yeah, I definitely think time is friend in this scenario, right? Time is friend always. And again, coming back to, I'm a little more complex than you are with 3 things. I've got more than 3 things. Okay, that's not my 3 things. Because I do think it's important how you communicate. And I know that can technically fall under respect, but not
Right.
always, because sometimes people misinterpret respect as just being silent and going along with
Sure.
everybody. And I don't think that sets up for a healthy marriage either. So I think that knowing how someone does fight is important. And how they fight you and how they fight others, right? I think those things are important. And I think seeing them through a season of pain is important, right? Because you know that. Now, again, not everybody has the luxury of time or whatever. They just feel fine. And this is not a be all end all. There are plenty of people who do get married, love at first sight. And there's plenty of people who do get married three months in and everything works out like rainbows. But I think those are the exceptions.
I don't even believe them. I don't believe them.
You don't believe them?
I don't believe them.
Yeah.
They're either not being honest or life hasn't hit the fan yet.
Yeah. I think that we just need to weigh in a little bit. And I'm not saying you married the wrong person here at all. I'm just saying, in this, first of all, we have to acknowledge there's a lot of pain happening here. And it's going to be very difficult, I think, for you to actually have a calm conversation with him at this point, because you're so upset. I don't know where he is, but it sounds like he's upset or embarrassed or whatever. And embarrassment is a big deal for guys. Like, it's a very big deal for them. So
coming from my wife, yes,
yeah.
Like, I could care less anybody else.
Yeah. So I think, again, you have to acknowledge whatever he's feeling to be able to have the conversation in the first place. And if you can't get there, then that's going to be difficult, right? Which is why I think it is helpful, if you have a relationship with God, to pray first to God. Submit to God, show him, have him show you how to navigate this conversation with him, praying over him that his heart would be softened as you come back into having this space, right? And then you have to be honest. I don't think here, and I'll be flat out, I don't care how much he wants her to stay at home if that's just not her. And the thing is, some of the stuff you can't tell, like you said, when your wife got pregnant, she changed her mind. For me, I don't know that I changed my mind. It's just like I didn't really have expectations one way or the other, I guess. I felt like if I was going to work, I was going to work. If not, but then once I had the baby, I felt differently. And I was like, no, I got to stay home, right? But with my youngest, I was ready to come back, but their personalities were completely different too. My other one was very like kind of lively and like liked people and could go anywhere. And my first was very like clingy to mom. So just different babies, different personalities. I felt different as a mom. And of course, I had the luxury of being able to bring them to work with me, which most moms don't get. And so, I mean, I get all the things. So there might be a part of you that changes here, but I think that men have to understand that when it comes to things like this, right? For a woman, it is all encompassing. For a man, you have a child, and it does change your world, but it doesn't change everything about you. There are some elements of you that are still remain after you're trying to think, okay, I will give you one. Your body probably still looks fairly similar before you had a child than after you had a child.
Sure. Okay. I wasn't thinking physically. I'm thinking emotionally.
Yeah,
I'm thinking all that. Okay.
I'm thinking physically.
Sure. You got that.
Okay.
You got
because that is a huge thing. Physically, I am not the same person I was before I had these 2 children. That changes so much in my life. Like, a lot, right? Especially for a woman and how she appears and her looks. That's a huge thing that men really don't even have time for. They're not even thinking about. They're like, oh, you're being silly, you're being blah, blah. And then like a woman is like, no, I don't recognize myself. It's a big thing, right? And so it is a huge change and space and time. And there are pieces that they're not thinking about yet fully, because even as a woman who's not pregnant, you can't even fathom how it's going to be when you do get pregnant. You might have this vision of this is going to be like this and this is going to be like that. And then it hits you completely different as you go in. So there's an element to this that you can't change. But for a man to come in and say, this is how I want it to be, when it has so much to do with the woman and how she is going to behave and how she's going to react, is harsh. Right. And that's not the way you come at it. That's not the way you get her to come over to your side either. Yeah. So for the man in this, not that he wrote in, but if he hears it, like, I would just say, slow your roll, like, relax. You need to be praying to God too, that he would help work out whatever vision is best for your family. Yeah. Not just what you think is the picture perfect kind of thing. And maybe the wife will change her mind as she has the child and the baby and kind of work that out. But I don't know that a man can demand this of a woman. I don't know that he can do that. And And in particular, because again, all of the physical things about this, even with having children, that's a big decision.
Yeah, I'll say a man should not.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where it's like, as a policeman, you've been given the authority to pull over 100 cars a day, even just to say, you look suspicious, but you can go now. Like, it's not within your authority to give everybody tickets if you don't have actual causes, but it's within your authority to pull over as many cars as you want. It's within the man's authority to demand whatever he wants. However, I will say my dad, and this chilled me to the core. This is why I try to explain to men all the things about the man being the leader in the home, being all that. It's not this here I am, big man, big chest. That's not it. It's responsibility.
Yeah.
It's, man, a good leader, I found this out early on, a good leader gives the credit and takes the blame. Like, that's what scripture is outlining as the man leading the household, right? And so my dad used to say, how long do you think God's going to let me get away with mistreating his daughter? Right. Now, the problem is a lot of men don't fear God.
Yes.
And again, we're back to pick the right man.
For sure.
But I will say that a man should not demand these things of a woman. It's not godly. It's not practical. It's not okay.
Explain to me then, because I'm having a hard time or mishearing then. So if a man shouldn't, why not? Like, so explain a little bit to me about how it's authority, but tell me why it's authority, where it's authority, and then how that's different from I have the authority, but then I shouldn't.
So you have the authority
to demand.
Right. You have the authority, and you're going to hate this because you're going to be like, so you're calling women children, but you have the authority as mom, positionally, to demand whatever you want of your kids, right, wrong, indifferent.
I don't believe that. I don't believe that I have the authority to demand my child kill themselves.
Well, I mean, that's a I can't physically make anybody do anything, right? That's why we have martyrs, right? But within your authority, positional, not relational, not godly, just the positional authority of mom, sit down, stand up, go here, but whatever, until they're old enough to have the recognition of, you know what, you can't physically make me do anything, I'm leaving home, right? It's within your authority. It's within your law abiding outside of scriptural practices. The law is going to look at you as mom. And if Nola calls the cops because mom made me sit down and stand up 20 times in a row and she's being annoying, they're going to say, get off my phone, right? Like, that's your mom. Sorry, it's annoying. That does not mean that Maxine is correct, right, godly, or a good mom for demanding those things. But it's within her authority to demand those things. A king can demand lots of things. We look at King David. Within his kingly right, there was nothing wrong with what happened with the Bathsheba. There was everything wrong with it for what God expected from him and what the people of Israel expected from him. So it's like authority is given, but God also has an expectation for how that authority is wielded. And that's the problem I have.
I'm not against that, but I'm saying what falls under authority. I don't think authority is the same thing as I get to do whatever I want and demand whatever I want. I guess I'm having a hard time with that word.
I'm trying to think of how to articulate it without repeating myself.
Okay. I'm trying to, and maybe it's okay. This is our point of tension. We're having a little spicy conversation back and forth here. Who knew this would be the one? Who knew, Tony? No, I understand authority in general, right? I just think that I don't think that everything, just because you're in a position of authority, no matter what that is, do you have the right to demand any and everything of anyone? Okay,
so here's my question. How do you define the right? Because I feel like you're defining it. I feel like you're defining it by what is right, not what is the right.
Yeah. So I'm going to come back on this. The exception to anything that I'm saying is God.
Sure.
Right? Because God is the authority.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Anyone short of God, to me, has a limited authority. Right? And so if I'm looking at that limited authority, there are things that are not within the right. It is not right to. It is also, you don't have the right to, both and, to demand. Right? I'll give you, and so maybe my head is going somewhere, but autonomy with your body, right? So a husband who is abusive to his wife, right? Physically, mentally, sexually abusive in all the spaces, has the authority to continue to rape his wife because he wants it.
Are you asking?
Yeah.
Authority versus what is right.
No, authority.
So,
I know what is right. I know that is not right.
Okay.
But does he have the authority?
Authority. The Bible, Paul says your body's not your own and his body's not his own.
Yes.
So she has authority over his body the exact same way.
Yes.
What is right is no,
but
you don't do that.
But authority is not authority to me does not give you space, allowance, because that's how I hear authority, I guess, right?
So
to do anything.
So, but hold on. Man, I'm trying to figure out how to say it without repeating myself.
No, you have to repeat it because I'm not getting it.
Okay.
I want to get it.
Sure.
I'm having issues with this. And I have to say this too. I'm not somebody who is against all authority.
Right, sure.
Right? Like I really actually respect strong leadership. I work best under strong leaders.
Right.
People that I can respect, that are full of integrity and whatever the case may be. And so like right now, you as my boss, right? You have authority in the space of work, of where we are, right? And there are things that you can ask of me to do. There are things that are expected of me to do within my job.
Right.
But you do not have authority to demand that I do things that are outside of that scope.
Right. Like I can't demand you to break the law.
Yes.
So like if you're my accountant, I can't demand you to lie on things like that, right?
Yeah.
But
you still have authority over me. And in the marriage, the husband does excuse me, you passed your cough on to me. The husband does have authority over the wife, right? My husband has authority over the wife. And we should be submitted to one another, right? Okay, but the authority has that. But the man can't then abuse his role.
Should not.
Okay, yeah, should not, cannot, whatever.
A godly man should not. A godly man who's submitted to God cannot.
But because men do, but I don't think that authority is the past then, because you say, and I think here in this, and the reason I'm parsing this out is because here, I think this is very much where this is leaning towards. He has the authority in the marriage, and so he is demanding that it look a certain way.
Right.
And I'm saying I don't know that his authority gives him.
You said something that I think is the missing link.
Okay.
The word pass.
Okay.
It's not a pass.
Okay.
Right? It's like your vehicle can drive up to 120 miles per hour. That does not mean it's a pass to do that.
Okay.
Just because you have the ability, I have the physical strength to overpower my wife and my children. That does not mean I have the pass to do so. Right? But the problem that we're facing is, and it sounds like in this situation, and husband, if you're whoever the husband is, if you're watching this, again, we're only reading one side, so maybe you should write in next. But
can we contact? No.
But I think the problem we run into is a lot of men and women alike will read the Bible and tune it out because they read that authority as a pass. And that's not what it is.
Can we, Tony, pull up the word? Because now I'm like, my brain is even just calculating. Can you pull up authority? I want to do it in two ways here. Authority is the definition, but then I actually want to go see if it's in Blue Letter Bible. Maybe we can get like what it actually meant there. Okay. Authority is the legitimate power. So it has to be legitimate or right to give commands or demands, what you were saying earlier. Make decisions and influence behavior. Okay. Legitimate power. So husband over wife, that's a legitimate power. Or right, which is the word I was using.
Right.
To give commands, make decisions, and influence behavior.
Right. So take this and apply it to a king.
Wait, I have to finish.
Okay, go ahead.
Often derived from legal, traditional, charismatic sources, it implies the recognized right to exercise power within specific limits.
Sure.
I love that.
Sure. So
I love that one. That's the one. That's the one that I am just talking about. That's the only part that I'm talking about, actually.
Sure. So
that specific limit part.
And I agree with that. Like there are limits. Like I said, I can't demand you as your boss. I can't demand you to lie on my tax
but now we're
files,
agreeing.
right?
But before you were saying that like you could demand whatever he wants. He could demand whatever he wants.
So the same way I can physically overpower someone, I can do that. That does not mean it's permitted or okay.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, I'm not saying God backs this husband. I'm saying a husband, if he should decide to run his household, could say, as soon as I get home, everyone will bow down and kiss my ring. That doesn't mean he has the right? That doesn't mean that he's backed by God. Doesn't mean it's okay.
So if he does not have the right, then he does not have the authority.
He doesn't have the spiritual right. He does not have the backing.
We're splitting hairs
We
here,
are.
We're splitting hairs.
Okay, so let me just say flat out what I'm trying to say, and we both already said it. I 1000% believe that the husband is the authority.
Yes.
Good husbands do not abuse that, right? Should you be with a husband who does abuse that, I am sorry, right? Like to everyone out there who's listening, I'm sorry. And to all you husbands out there, get it together, right? But for a woman a Christian woman to look at her husband and say, you don't have the right to tell me what to do, I find unbiblical. Maybe he should not be telling you what to do, or the specific thing that he's asking you to do is obviously if he's asking you to do something ungodly, then no, right? But like if it's a matter of that man is abusing his authority with where the finances go, right? That is under his authority, biblically speaking. So then your choices there are either be disobedient to the chain of command that God has set up, right? Pray that the Lord would reach his heart. And I am not a proponent for divorce except in certain circumstances, but separation I think is very healthy for a lot of people. You need to get out. You need to get some space. But if the husband says, I want all the money to go to X, Y, and Z, and I'm going to buy my sports car, and I'm going to buy this, and I'm going to buy, that's within his authority as the husband. So my prayer is that men would, in all fear of God, wield that authority well. And again, we have to go back to scripture because it says, as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her.
So here's another question, I guess. And is there any circumstance in which authority is lost? Can authority
positional or
be lost?
Relational?
Regardless, either way.
Positional, this is just my opinion off the top of the dome. Positional, no. Relational, 1000%. It's like, oh man, we're going to go back to the politics episode. I hate when people are like, that's not my president. Yes, he is.
Yeah.
Like you don't like him and you don't support him, and that's okay. Yeah. You're allowed to say that. But like, he's still your president. And so, that's not my leader. That's not my husband. Yeah.
So where do we stand on things like civil disobedience then?
Civil disobedience.
Yeah. So
like Boston Tea Party kind of.
First of all, I'm pushing on purpose. Okay.
Yeah.
First of all, I'm pushing on purpose. But secondly, no, I think this has to be answered because, and maybe stuff is just like very fresh in my brain because I just came off of a retreat. And so, I think we have to have an approach to this that is grounded in reality, right? And strong biblical principles, right? Because we always talk about that here too. Like we know what the biblical principle is, and we're dealing with real people. And how do we actually combine these two things together, right? Because, and I'm going to use a real example here, but I know a couple who was, together, had a child, married couple, and the wife was consistently struggling financially, not having enough money to get basic needs met, any of the stuff, trying to go Salvation Army to get clothes for her kid because they don't have whatever, scrounging for food donations, supplies, all this stuff, doesn't understand where the money is, like, because husband works, but they don't have enough money consistently to make bills, to make blah, blah, blah. Come to find out, man's was spending all this extra money on gambling and spending it on, what's the thing called? We just had talked about it on another OnlyFans. This is where the money's going. So my kid doesn't have food to eat and my kid doesn't have clothes because you have the authority, because you're the one working, to spend the, not because you're the one working. You have access to the money first because you're the one working. You have authority because you're my husband to spend this. At what point do we say, hey, financially the authority is not there because you're not following God, you're not honoring God in this, in either of these circumstances. And now the woman, because the man wants her to work, not work, stay home, but now she's literally suffering. So I'm meant to follow this man and his wishes and his whatever, even though he's abusing the position of authority.
No, I think you have a couple of different choices there. One is you pray that God reaches that man. I think you do that regardless. But then two, like I said, I think you separate because this is for the good of your...
But Theo, how? How do you separate? This is what I'm talking about. We have to talk, we have to stay grounded in reality.
Yeah,
because she has no money.
Sure. We have access to, and I don't know what's nationwide. I know there are programs like this nationwide, but locally we have a ministry called Poema that is all about women in transition.
I love that. But realistically, how many people does Poema house?
This one, they just opened up, I think, 1 or 2 new houses. So I'm not sure the exact numbers.
The answer is not many. It's great. I love the work that they do, but we need millions of Poemas.
Sure.
Not one.
Sure.
And I know that women's shelters are awful. Right? It's not a safe place for women and children to be at homeless shelters and stuff like that. There are some great organizations doing great work, but by and large, it's not safe for a woman who has no financial resources, no means to leave.
I get what you're saying. What I'm saying is, what does civil disobedience look like for you?
Civil disobedience is a political thing.
Yeah, I'm saying take it to the marriage realm, right? What does that look like for you? Because what you have here is your only choice is either get it out the mud, figure it out, right? And I get there's not a poema on every corner for every woman in this situation, right? So it's either figure it out or you're in this situation regardless, because even what are you going to do? Beat him over the head and say, give me the wallet, give me the if he is hell bent on gambling and OnlyFans, first of all, I have words for you, sir, because you're a husband and a father, right? Outside of that, if he's hell bent on that, there is no, he won't go to church, he's not heeding action, whatever. Those are her only choices anyway. Outside of, is this within his authority? Her only choices are stay and pray and hope it gets better, or go and figure it out. So now only thing I'm saying is,
but I'm going to push on this, right?
Sure.
So let's say, because I want to take this authority thing to the max, right?
Okay, go for it.
Of like, let's say he says, no, you can't go. I'm commanding you to stay. I have authority over you and you're not allowed to leave. Then do I get to break authority there?
There is scripture about the unbelieving spouse, things like that, and there are, I don't want to call it loopholes, but that's what it ends up being.
But he's believing. He's a believer.
He's a believer.
He's a believer.
That just got more complicated.
I'm telling you, this story, it's a real life situation that I've walked through. Now, I will say in this particular situation, the husband came around. And so the way that they ended up working out is that she now has access to the finances, and she is the one who distributes, like, you know what I'm saying? She is the one who
makes sure the money goes where it needs to go.
the money needs to go. That was what they came to, because otherwise divorce or whatever.
Right.
And he did not demand that she stay. That is me adding, layers to make this whole situation complicated. So, in that space, she did have some leverage in that he wanted to keep his family and his children. That was important enough to him for him to make a change. But let's say we're not dealing with that. And that is what I'm saying. Is there an instance where that authority has its limits? So I say there is. I say that in the abuse of a positional authority,
right?
I think that's within a specific limit that I'm like, nope, I don't follow you.
Okay, so maybe I should have clarified this earlier. Abuse is a different story versus I don't like this. So when it comes to infidelity, when it comes to abuse, the Wesleyan Church, which we're a part of, those are two of the biggest things that, in the doctrine is permitted for divorce,
I
right?
need to, before you go down that route, of course.
Mhm.
But I didn't mean to say abuse like, physical abuse or
Well,
mental abuse. I meant just like
So
going outside of the scope of your
right, so I'm saying,
position.
so in the Wesleyan Church, I'm not talking biblically, because biblically the only thing we really see is infidelity,
Yeah.
right, adultery. But in the Wesleyan doctrine, they have made space for abuse. I'm not talking about just going upside somebody's head.
Yeah.
Abuse,
Yeah.
right? And so, in my mind, abuse is a different conversation, right? If this person is no longer, even if they are a believer, if they're no longer submitted to the authority that is Christ. Well, then we've got to mess up in this hierarchy anyway. We've got to mess up in this chain anyway.
That's exactly what I'm getting at. So if that mess up is there, then is the authority released, is what I'm asking. Because I can see both. See both sides. First of all, I'm not advocating for one way or the other. It's a genuine like push on this. But because coming back to civil disobedience thing, okay, this person is my governor, my mayor, my president, whatever. And I don't agree with everything that he does. And even with the mandates that come out. And so I choose to do something different, right? His authority says this is the law of the land, but I don't agree with it. Okay, so what do I do? Do I follow this thing that goes against my faith, for example?
Right.
Right? Because it is the law of the land.
But for that, we have things like, there will come times where I believe the Constitution is going to conflict with our faith. But we do have a higher than the mayor law of the land, which is like our Constitution, which gives us certain rights. So even if the mayor says like, you're not allowed to pray, well, my constitutional right says I can. So but
we have limits on that, right? We have limits on even those things here, and we kind of follow along or don't, right? So at one point in time, it's funny, we're watching reruns of Family Matters right now, which is an old like 90s sitcom or whatever, and there was a scene, and they went to go do the Pledge of Allegiance. Urkel gets caught up on the flagpole or whatever and holds it up, and everybody stands up and they do the Pledge of Allegiance. I was like, oh, that's so odd. I wonder if kids are still doing Pledge of Allegiance. And then I was like, well, I haven't worked in schools forever. The last schools I did work at, I don't remember them ever doing the Pledge of Allegiance. I was like, I wonder if it's because it says under God in the spiel. And then I was like, isn't it so weird that we used to like stand up and like pledge allegiance to like
America,
but to a flag, to a symbol. And like, I was like, that's weird. That's odd. And then we're adding God to it. And like the whole thing, we had this whole long discussion about it, my husband and I. And so there are things that we see here, that there's this pledge, this allegiance or whatever, but in the civil disobedience space, it really is used like, this is the law of the land, right? But it is morally wrong. And we needed civil disobedience in this country for so many rights and things to happen. And the people who didn't go against it because I'm following the law of the land, right, even though it's not right, how do we value that? How do we judge that? Do I listen to the crooked cop because he is a cop? Positionally, he has authority over me. Right. So, but does he lose that authority if he asks me to do something that is not right? This is what I
meant when I said positional versus relational. Positional, you disobeying does not make him no longer a cop. Does not mean that his commissioner takes away his ranking, all that kind of stuff. Although relationally, the whole town might revolt. There may be riots, all that. But just because there's riots doesn't mean that Maxine has now taken away his positional authority. It means nothing now.
Yeah.
But it's still given by the higher ups. This is what I mean in marriage. The positional authority of husband was given and blessed by God. If the husband wields it wrong, then that authority means nothing now. You're not leading your family well, so your kids are not going to respect you. It says over in Colossians, I think it is, where it says, wives, obey your husbands, husbands, love your wives, children, obey your parents, and fathers, do not embitter your children or do not enrage your children. There's a whole, sermon in those like 4 or 5 verses there, and 2 of the 4 charges are to the husband, right? To love your wife and to not enrage your children. So it's blessed by God. It's given by God positionally. It's blessed by God when it's done this way. And so in the case of abuse, get out. I'm just gonna leave it at that. Get out. There is no grin and bear it, stay there. In the case of, I don't know how much this is my preference or I don't like this, I can't say that I'm like kick and scream and get out. If it's a matter of just,
But
I
then
don't like
who gets
this.
to define what is abuse? I know I'm pushing hairs. I'm sorry.
I mean, no, you're good. You're good.
But like, who gets to define that, right? Because again, when I brought up the scenario in which the wife is saying no,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because this happens, right? We just there's been a bunch of cases actually. I mean, this is not the same thing because the woman was unconscious, but the husband was drugging the wife. This happened on 2 separate occasions very recently.
Okay, we don't have to go any further. This is by law, by Bible, by social.
Yes.
This is by every standard.
So this is an extreme case, but like, let's remove that, right? Because there are just instances there where a woman says no and the husband says, I am your husband. And so this is happening. And so now they're having forced sex. The authority is there. Yeah, your body to become one, whatever the case may be. And yeah, but the husband wants it right now. And this has to happen. And the wife does not want it right now. The wife is saying no for whatever reason.
Yeah, that is not in line with Ephesians chapter 5, where it says, husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her, laid his life down for her,
Yes.
laid down your ego, laid down your sex drive, laid down.
I agree.
Right. So
I agree. But this is why I'm coming back to
so
this
at this
authority
point, it's
thing.
an abuse of power. So it's abuse.
Right. So in that space, though, I don't think that we talk about it that way enough in church. I don't think it's clear enough there. And so there are women in marriages that are in this kind of dynamic, and they can't even call it abuse.
Yeah.
Because under the guise of the man has the authority and the right to demand anything he wants whenever he wants, because that is the biblical authority, right?
Well, this is why I will say, and every single one of you watching the last few episodes, I've said this podcast is not to replace your Sunday mornings. It's not to replace your Bible studies, all that kind of stuff. This is assuming that you go on Sunday mornings, right?
Yeah.
But you also got to understand all these things need to live together.
Yeah.
That your Sunday mornings is not to replace your Bible studies or to replace listening to podcasts like this or to replace going to counseling, right? Because if you were to get, especially with a Christian counselor, if you sat in front of any Christian counselor that's even half worth their salt, I'm not even going to say is like top of the game. When you sit down and begin to air these things out, and that's another thing, I sat with one couple and started from the beginning. I told them, do not waste my time. I won't waste your time. If you're not willing to be honest with me, honest with yourselves, honest with God, honest with each other, then like, let's not do this. Don't just do this as I'm checking the box because she told me to come to therapy or he told me to come to therapy, or we want to check the box before we go and get divorced anyway, but I'm already drawing up the papers in my brain, right? No, if we're here to do this, we're here to do this. I later on found out he was pissed that his wife was honest in therapy, right? Why are we here? Why are we doing this, right? We need to learn to be okay going to church, and that is a crumb. I need you to realize that's the start of the cycle of the wheel, right? That's the wide open front door. You got to go to church. You need to be going to Bible studies in groups so that you can actually parse out what the word says. And I don't care who you are. I don't care how great you are, how great your partner is. You need counseling.
Yeah.
You need counseling for yourself, and you need counseling as a couple. I tell people I look at counseling like going to the doctor. You don't wait till you break a leg to go get a checkup. You should be going every year to get a checkup. And then when something's not quite feeling right, you call. I don't care if you just went 3 months ago. Hey, I noticed a little, I'm getting a little winded when I walk up the steps or whatever. Right. And so when it comes to these marriages, I find that the reason why, and I'm not blaming these women because a lot of them have been coerced or manipulated over some years. A lot of times there's trauma that started from a child that they don't even know quite what they're in, right? But if we make it a common practice, and if we as pastors make it a common speech to say things like this from stage, hey, you're getting ready to get married, go through premarital counseling.
Right.
Hey, you've been married for a year, go back to counseling for that check-in. Oh, you've been married for 5 years? Go to 7 years, you're hitting what they call the 7-year itch, where, you're about to pull your hair out. You don't like each other for whatever reason. Oh, you've been married for 10 years. That's awesome. Go to counseling. Like it should be a never ending thing. And what happens is if we go to counseling, we're actually willing to be honest and open.
Yeah.
Then these things get aired out. And what happens is the husband in this case would then look and be like, man, I'm kind of terrible. And the wife would look at this and be able to pretty clearly see he's kind of terrible, right? If she doesn't know already.
Yeah.
And then if she already had a feeling that he was kind of terrible, but needed some confirmations. You get that there, but you not only get that there, you get some fixes.
Yeah.
And if we get the fixes and one of the two parties are not willing to employ the fixes, well, then we get back to your authority is no longer blessed by God, because it's no longer within
That is
this.
my favorite thing that you've said. I feel like that's all I've been trying to get you to say to begin with.
I said that earlier.
You did not.
I thought I said
Because
that when I was talking about the relational versus
your authority is not blessed by God. To me, means, I know you're not saying it this way, but I'm taking it. If your authority is no longer blessed by God, the authority is no longer valid. That's where I'm getting at.
Sure, that's the. I mean, I thought
No,
I
do.
was.
Guys, don't come at me. Don't think I don't listen to my husband. I do. Okay, husband is great. Husband is trustworthy, man of integrity. But if husband ever turns and is like trying to do something wild and crazy, no, we're gonna stop. We're gonna pray. We're gonna ask God. God needs to come on the same page as both of us. It's not just gonna be again a thing where gonna blind leading the blind. That's not gonna happen. There's certain areas in which we need to slow down, and that has to be okay. But again, that is the kind of marriage we have, where we mutually respect each other, I think, to be able to hear the other person out without having to rush to make a decision. And I know that's not the case for everyone. I love the advice of therapy or counseling. I also want to acknowledge that that is not a thing that's for everyone, by and large, because a lot of men don't like to go to counseling.
Okay, we're pushing each other a lot today, so I'm just gonna push.
Come on, Theo, just realistically, of the couples that you have counseled, how many times was it the man that scheduled the appointment?
Well, actually, I've gotten quite a few. Okay. But what I'm getting at is a large majority of men don't like counseling.
Yes.
It's not about what you like. So when you said counseling's not for everyone, I disagree. It is for everyone.
I didn't finish my sentence. I didn't mean that it's not for everyone, that anyone can't get value from it. I think everyone can get value from it. I think it's not an option for most people for many different reasons. One, it is really difficult to find a Christian counselor, it's hard to find a good counselor, period. You've already heard my stories about when I first started, right? It took me until getting here to New Life to have like someone who seems semi-sane, right? So, and he's more than semi-sane. He's great. Love you. But you know, like crazy nonsense. It was so hard to find that. And then adding, we're going to take this pool here, and now we need to shrink it down because we need to make it Christian, but we need to shrink it down even more because not everybody who says they're Christian is Christian. Right. And now I got to get counseling. And I'm not trying to call like us out here, but even at our church right now, the amount of people who actually offer premarital counseling is low amongst how many people need it. It's not proportional. So we can say all we want, counseling is the answer, but counseling is not the answer, cannot be the answer, because we don't have enough like hands to meet everybody where they're at. And then on top of that, you have the resistance from a lot of men who don't feel it's valuable to talk about it, to see about it. So you get them in the room together, but the man is shut down. He's not saying anything. Okay, well, this is a waste of time for everybody because he's just having a big old temper tantrum. Yeah. So I get it. Yes, if you can do, if they're willing, go often. But if not, if that's not it, this is where, this sucks, by the way, what I'm getting ready to say, but this is where you, whoever the party is who is interested, invested in doing the work, you must and have to do the work on your own first. You cannot wait for your partner to come along and try to be there with you and meet you and all of that stuff. You have to go and you read the marriage books if you can't do the counseling, or you go to the counseling by yourself if your partner's not willing to, and whatever. And you work on what you can within your sphere of control. And then we wait for God to move, barring abuse, right? And infidelity, which is something that you might decide to stay together through. And that's fine too. I mean, God has done incredible things with people who have done it, right? And like, amen to whatever, however God wants to work out your thing, whatever. But the point is, we can't just sit there and expect that we're going to wait for the other person. And it's really hard to do that, especially when you're in something toxic and bad, to hear that you just have to wait and do the work. It doesn't seem fair. But sometimes it's not about fair. Sometimes it's just, again, we come back to that long suffering, that other part that God is trying to develop in you, and you do that. The other thing I want to say that we haven't quite touched on is that we are talking about a married couple.
Yes.
Married.
If you're not married and you're going through this, walk away, please.
Your boyfriend, your fiance, your situationship shay, whatever, does not have any authority. Zero. Even if I'm getting in my feels right now because it's recent. Even if the man is ahead of you, or you perceive the man to be ahead of you in your Christian journey, doesn't matter how long a man says he's been a Christian, you need to know him by the fruit and his action and his words. So no, you cannot go based off of, oh yeah, he says he's been going to church for 10 years, so I got to listen to everything he says.
Well, even if he really is showing the fruit, if you're not married yet, you're not under his authority.
Not under his authority.
And vice versa. If you're not married yet, she's not under your responsibility.
Yes. Yep. So I just want to say that. I also want to say that, and you're not going to love this, but living together and not being married does not give the man authority, responsibility. Same thing you said. Living together, I don't care how much you want to come at me. It is not the same thing as being married.
Yeah.
Not legally, not functionally, not spiritually, not any of the things. There is just another layer. And this is not to demean the situationship or the relationship or the whatever. It is just what it is.
Yeah.
And so we're talking about all this, but it is within a specific context of marriage.
Yes.
And I find that if you are in a relationship where the man is trying to pressure you into coming into submission before you're married, that is the biggest red flag. Run the other way. Run as far as you can the other way. Wait for the right person rather than push through with the wrong one, because that is just not good.
Let me also say we are speaking specifically and vaguely, because we started off with a story here from somebody, and then we only get one side of the story and we don't get all the details from that person, so we're adding some in and we're, well, what if this, what if that, and obviously this is probably one of our longest episodes. We're probably somewhere around 2 hours. Have we hit 2 hours yet, Tone?
Almost there.
Yeah.
Goodness.
So within that 2 hour span, we've been adding on here and there, and so know that we probably danced around some of your situations, and we were and were not speaking to your situation. So you just need to parse that out with wisdom.
Yeah, good. I want to just also say that I think that God has uniquely crafted men and uniquely crafted women, and that there are functions, there are roles, there are giftings, there are abilities that God creates in us, and that they're beautiful and distinct. And there is some overlap. There's some stuff that we share, but there's some things that are unique. Yeah. And there's some stuff that's complementary. And so I love being a woman. I love that I get to be married to a man who's very different from me and brings all of that out. And so again, I do think that it's purposeful, like this process, the gender, right, is intentional, and a beautiful thing. So don't mishear that. This has been fun.
This has been really fun. We might have to do a part 2 on this, because we got to a lot of it.
Are you wrong though? Is she wrong though? Final statement.
Wrong in how she is perceiving. I say no, barring the whole, I pointed out the whole I'm hurt line. Like, were you able to have the conversation? Which then you said, is there space to have the conversation? So are you wrong how you're perceiving? No. Are you wrong in how you responded? Probably.
Okay. So I'm going to answer her actual thing. I'm sitting here wondering if I went too far. And that is with the question of the father. I'm going to say, yes, you're wrong. Just to answer that part, right? Not wrong for anything else, but am I sitting here wondering if I went too far with my conversation with the dad and pushing back? I think you were, right? Because you said you think you went too far earlier. So I think if you need to follow conviction, don't have somebody try to gas you up one way or another. You felt a certain way after the conversation, period. Go with that. That's the conviction. Okay. The conversation should have been after your father-in-law leaves, and it needs to be with your husband, and your husband needs to handle the conversation.
The other part, one line up, I snapped and said, if he wants his dad's version of a wife, he has married the wrong person. I should never snap at my spouse. The only times that I think are permitted for me to snap are righteous indignation, meaning I will not stand for someone making a mockery of God, or and then the other thing we were talking about earlier, just before the cameras turned on, protecting my family. If someone breaks into my home, I can't promise what's gonna happen. I will snap.
I am less holy than Theo, apparently, because I do snap most commonly if I'm hungry. So
you
the
gotta define
best
snap
solution.
though. You gotta define what snap means.
Okay, we do have to define snap. Okay, to me is being, because what she says is that, to me, I picture it like this. Argue. Well, if you want your mom, you marry the wrong person. That is a snap to me. It's like a little clap back. It's a little...
Okay, I see nothing wrong with clapbacks.
It's a little...
That's part of the conversation.
It's a little
sometimes.
alligator, like the little this snap. Go on, I do that. Okay.
I see nothing wrong with clapbacks. When I see snapped, I see... Okay, so we're about to get back into another one. When I talk to couples about conflict, because it always comes up, premarital and in marital counseling, I talk about purposefully hitting below the belt.
Yeah.
That's not okay.
Okay.
That's beyond snapping.
This might be below the belt. We don't know the history
Could
here.
be. That's what I was getting ready to say.
Okay.
Like that could be one of her.
Yeah.
I'm purposefully pushing your buttons because I'm hurt right now, and that I view
I
as
agree
not
with
okay.
that. You have to know. And here's the thing. This is also the other reason why it helps to know the person that you're with, because you need to identify those things that are below the belt.
Yes.
And no, we'd never go there.
Yep.
But it needs to be addressed and spoken of. And like, if it's the first time that it happens and that person didn't know, you need to be able to give grace for that.
Right.
Still explain I'm hurt. Still explain, all the things, but also giving that room and that space that it was the first time.
Yeah.
And then never again.
So are you wrong for how you feel? No. Are you wrong for how you responded with how you feel? Probably so.
Yeah. But we love you for writing in. And this was a good episode.
It's a great episode.
Yeah, I think so.
All right, y'all. You know how to get in contact with us between Sundays at newlife.live. Like, share, subscribe, leave a review on any of the platforms that you watch us on. And until next time, we love y'all.